Brian, can you hear me now?
Yes. Hello.
Thank you. Apparently the system didn't recognize that I was the presenter and it muted me, so apologize for that. So are you all seeing my slides now? We should be on slide number 2. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. So this is the economic injury disaster loan, and this loan is meant to assist businesses as they recover from economic injury, as opposed to what we usually see, which is a recovery from a physical disaster. For that reason, some of the way that the loan itself gets done is a little bit different. Do keep in mind that these are the only loans that will be done directly by SBA, so there will be no outside lender involvement, as the funds, the processing, and the servicing will be done by SBA. And from what I'm hearing on a couple of calls that I was on, it sounds like they're anticipating like a disaster. Some people have asked what the disaster length of time is. My understanding is they're looking at something like a 6-month time frame. So on to slide number 3. Because you're applying directly to the SBA, there are no fees to apply. Anyone that thinks that they may be eligible should apply. And you don't have to take the loan if something changes between when you apply and when you receive approval. So just keep that in mind. The Disaster Center is really encouraging people not to try to make eligibility decisions on their own, but to just go ahead. If you have any questions about whether you're eligible or whether you actually need the loan, go ahead and do the application process. So slide number 4, we're going to talk about eligibility. To be eligible for the EIDL loan, you do need to be a for-profit small business or a private nonprofit. There have been some questions about startup businesses. With startup businesses, it's going to be more difficult to show you're in business without incoming revenue streams, or to show your ability to repay without a year financial statement. The disaster area was using a form called the Form 1368, which I'll talk about a little bit later. I've actually had a couple of people contact me back and say they're no longer using that form, but that's a form where those smaller businesses would be able to, or those startup businesses would be able to provide a little bit of narrative about their business. There have also been some questions about whether folks in the gig economy are going to be eligible. In part, your eligibility is going to be based on how you file your taxes. So if you're not filing some kind of a business tax, it's going to be, again, more difficult to show that you are a business and can receive assistance. So on to slide 5, which is going to go into a little bit of discussion on small business eligibility. At this point, almost all businesses are going to qualify, and my understanding is that for the most part, I think every state now has received their eligibility declaration. So pretty much any small business around the United States is going to be eligible, with a few specific ineligible type of businesses. To determine if you're small, you're going to want to visit the Small Business Size Standards link at the bottom of this page. Size standard is going to be based on the type of business you are, and then from there, the determination is going to be based on either revenue or employment, depending on the business industry. So slide 6 has to deal with private nonprofit eligibility. And this is another area where the disaster assistance people are telling us, if you are a nonprofit, if you're a 501c3 D or E, you should go ahead and apply. If you're not sure, the application process is free, and they would really prefer that people not try to make a determination on the eligibility on their own. One thing that I would say is that on a future slide, I'm going to be talking about the necessity of providing tax returns. There was a very recent change so that small businesses will not have to provide income tax returns if the loan that they're receiving is under $500,000. Keep in mind, for nonprofits, no matter what size loan you receive, you will need to provide income tax returns. All right, so next slide talks about our ineligible entities. The first item there is listed as agriculture enterprises. And the way that it was explained by the disaster center is that if the enterprise grows it, feeds it, or waters it, the business is not going to be eligible. But do keep in mind that agricultural aquaponic businesses are eligible. The second bullet there with the religious or charitable organizations and government-owned concerns, that's where there's some confusion around what constitutes a private nonprofit, and that is why the disaster center is suggesting that nonprofits, if you're a nonprofit and you're if you're a non-religious nonprofit, go ahead and fill out the application and see if you qualify. Gambling concerns are not eligible, and speculative real estate businesses. So that would be something like a developer whose job is to subdivide lots. Those businesses, if you subdivide lots and build houses and things on them, those businesses would not be eligible. And I understand there's a little feedback going on. So if you are not muted, please do mute your phone. I tried to make sure everybody was muted as they came in. But if you didn't hear that you were muted when you came in, please hit *6. Does this sound okay, Alicia? Yep, that was a little better. Okay, thank you. I'm actually working off of my iPhone and headset, so just want to make sure that you guys are getting everything. All right, so I'm going to go on to slide 8. Slide 8 is the disaster loan terms. The businesses are going to qualify for up to $2 million of loan. The interest rate is going to be 3.75 for a small business or 2.75 for a nonprofit. And the term could be up to 30 years. The loan itself can be used to pay bills that occur in the ordinary course of doing business. So that would be, what are the sorts of bills? If you're a business owner, what would you be paying? What would you be sitting writing a check for right now in the ordinary course of doing business? So fixed debt, that would be like your rent payments, your mortgage payments, your payroll payments. One thing that I want to stress is that you as the applicant will not choose the amount of loan that you think you need. What's going to happen is that the loan officer at the Disaster Loan Center is going to review all of the documentation that you submit, and they will make a determination on loan size and on term. So what the loan center is going to be looking at is your loss of income, or excuse me, your loss of revenue based on the virus. Another thing to keep in mind about this loan is that there are no prepayment penalties. And also there is going to be a 12-month deferment, during which time you'll not be required to make payments, but you will have interest accruing. And I believe the date of the deferment starts with the date that you signed the note. Okay, so slide 9. As you can see, the criteria is credit history, repayment, and collateral requirements. So SBA will be pulling a credit report, but one of the things that's been stressed by the disaster loan people is not to get too stressed out about what the minimum credit score is. The loan officer at the disaster center is also going to be looking at credit history and repayment ability. They haven't given us a minimum. They want us to just encourage people to go ahead and apply. So for loans over $25,000, collateral will be required if it's available. Generally speaking, lack of collateral will not be the sole reason for declining a borrower, but if your financial statements show that you have available collateral, the SBA may require you to pledge it. And as a general rule, the SBA is looking to real estate first and then business assets. So as you are preparing to go online and apply, we do encourage you to take a look at the documentation that's listed on the website and print it out and pre-fill it out before you log in to do your application. The idea is that will help you be more prepared to be complete and accurate as you're going through the online process. So the documentation that I've got listed here is available from the disaster website, and I've got a slide later in the presentation that does show what that link is. So the first form listed there is the tax authorization form, or the IRS form 4060T, and this allows the IRS to release your tax information to the SBA. I caution you to make sure that the information that you fill out on this form matches the information that was on your tax returns. For example, if you put Bill on this form, but on your filing documents, you listed yourself as William, the IRS will not provide the SBA with information. And basically your application at that point is not going to go any farther. So please make sure that what you put on the 4506T matches your income, your federal income statement. The schedule of liabilities, which is SBA form 2202, is a list of your obligations, and you're going to be asked to list the original amount and date, the current amount and date, whether the obligation is current or delinquent, what the maturity date is, what your payment amount is, and how it is secured. The personal financial statement, which is the SBA 413, which is again personal financial statement, is going to be used to analyze your repayment ability and your creditworthiness. This is going to include your personal assets and liabilities, any sources of income, notes payable, stocks and bonds, any real estate that you own, and then a variety of random other assets and liabilities. Again, keep in mind this is personal and not a business financial statement. So on to slide 11. So the first bullet point there, what I would want to note is that if you are a partnership or if you have owners with 20% or more in the company or affiliates, you're also going to need to provide the tax information and the Form 413 for those individuals as well. So the item at the bottom of that slide, which is that form 1368 that I mentioned, the additional filing requirements, at this point, I'm not 100% sure if the disaster office is requiring that one. I believe they may have within the last few days come out with a new form that they'll ask for you to fill out and provide some of that extra information. And just as a note too, I've had a few questions from people wanting to know if somebody hasn't filed their income tax returns for 2019, since of course we're in the middle of filing season. Just know if those haven't been filed, you will be able to instead provide your year-end profit and loss and your balance sheet for the tax year. All right, so slide 12. This is basically at the point where we're going to be applying. Form 5 is the actual application. It's here that you're going to put in the specific demographics of your business, like the name, address, phone number, etc. And this is a document that I believe the second question on the form asks for you to signify which type of disaster you are applying for. Just keep in mind that this is an economic injury disaster loan. It's not a physical loan. So you want to select the option for economic injury, and then in parentheses, I think it just says EIDL. We call it EIDL or EIDL. If you do not select the right option, your application will get declined. And again, this form and all of the previous ones will be able to get printed out, and it might be helpful again to print this one out as well and pre-fill it so you have all of the information in front of you as you are filling out the document. Another thing to keep in mind as you're going through the application process, this isn't too much different than any other online process, that some of the boxes have a red asterisk. They're the required ones. And if you don't fill something into that box, you will not be able to proceed to the next field. So Form 13 there lists the options for applying. The first bullet point has the link to the Disaster Loan Center, and that's where you can go and download the documents on the previous slide. There is an option for filing a paper application. Just understand that if you do that process, it will take longer for you to get an approval. So when you go to the link at bullet point number 1, and you're looking for not only the documents, but there's an FAQ section, and there's some extra information on applying for the disaster loans. At the top of the screen, there's a link that says loan information. And if you select that, that's where you'll find the link to get all of the forms. So one thing I want you to think about as you go in, when you go in here and start applying, you're going to have to set up a login and a password. This part of the process is very important. You will be able to save. So as you're going through and filling out the application, there's a save button on every page. So you can hit save and go out and come back to your application. But, and this is a really big but, when you set up the login and the password, you must remember what your password is. SBA does not have a mechanism to reset a forgotten password. If you go in and you start the application and you go out and you forget your password, you're going to have to start over. And so with regards to that Form P19 that I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is a document that once you submit your application, you may get told you're going to have to provide other information. So just keep in mind that as you're going through, you fill out all the information. You get a notification back that everything was uploaded. Once the loan officer looks at your incoming information, they may get back to you and tell you that you do need other information before they can continue processing. Oh, and before I go to the next slide, let me go back to 13. The phone number and email address on bullet point 3 are really important. That is your direct connection to the customer service people who are helping to provide answers. So if you have a question and we're not able to answer it here in the district office, you'll be able to call either the 800 number or you'll be able to send in an email to their inbox to ask any questions. So at slide 14, this was the original slide where they talked about some of the issues with getting your application processed and processed quickly. And the biggest thing the disaster folks wanted us to let people know is that you do want your application to be complete and accurate. That's why we suggest printing and pre-filling the documents so that when you get in the midst of the application, you're able to just continue on through everything's at your fingertips and you can make sure that you are providing complete and accurate information. Also, once you get the determination back, you can ask to have your loan increased or decreased. To increase it, you'll have to probably provide some extra supporting documents to make this request. If you need less funds, then you just send in a request to have that reduction done. And unfortunately, some people may be denied. You have 6 months to ask for reconsideration, and we've been told that you have a couple of options. So you can submit your application. If it's denied, you'll have an opportunity to request a reconsideration. If that consideration gets denied, then you have a chance to do a second reconsideration. So for slide 15, these are some other things that we've been hearing, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody gets to know that the loan officer, so many of the questions that we get, we just really can't give you an answer. A lot of times the answer is that we keep telling you to just, if you think you're eligible, apply. The reason being is that the loan officer at the disaster center really can't make a determination until they see your entire loan package. So they really need to be able to take everything into consideration that's going on. The second bullet point there, we've been hearing from folks that they cannot see the Minnesota declaration when they go out to the disaster website. Generally, that's because they went and visited the website before our declaration went in. All you need to do is either close your browser or clear your browser history, and the Minnesota declaration should show up. So for credit elsewhere, in the terms of the EIDL loan, the loan officer at the disaster center is going to review all of the information that you provided to determine how much you as a business owner need to pay your ongoing bills, and they're also going to be taking a look at what kind of liquid assets you already have. If it appears the business can pay its ongoing bills out of those liquid assets, your application may be declined. And again, if that happens, you can send in a request for reconsideration with some extra documentation showing why that is potentially not accurate. Personal guarantees will be required regardless of the size of the loan, and they may need to be secured. The determination on whether or not they'll need to be secured is going to be made on a case-by-case basis. If you get an error message, you'll need to contact the customer service number for that. They'll be able to look at your application and help clear out whatever the error message is. As of right now, that's not something that we can do at the district office. And then again, finally, as you see that after submission, you'll be contacted by a loan officer, and if you need more documentation, they'll let you know what that looks like. So slide 16, we have SBA resource partners. We've always had SBA resource partners, and frankly, I think that they're some of the best around, and they can provide some assistance. I know I've talked to a few of our SBDC consultants who are actually helping people maneuver their way through the application process. We also have SCORE chapters. We have women's business centers, 3 of those in the state of Minnesota, and we have a regional veterans business outreach center. All of them are, I'm going to say, ready, willing, and available to help provide assistance. If you need to contact them, if you visit the link there that for the local assistance, take you to the closest one physically to you. And finally, there at the bottom of the screen, Minneapolis.mn@sba.gov is our incoming main district office mailbox. It's the best way to send questions to us. I've been monitoring that particular mailbox, and I can then send questions out to the correct person in the office that can answer questions for you. So that's a good way to get in touch with us. If you're not already signed up to get our newsletter, I would suggest that's a good way for you to stay on top of any changes to the SBA programs. That is at www.sba.gov update. And then finally, I know our public affairs specialist has been sending out some tweets on Twitter, and that's our Twitter handle there. And not only has she been sending out some of the updates, but we're hearing some positive stories as well, and we're trying to share those so that we can all stay connected. So before I take any questions, I just want to provide just a little bit of hopefully some wraparound information. So a couple of final comments. When you complete the online process, my understanding is that you're going to receive some immediate notification that will indicate that your application has been uploaded or it's been accepted or some kind of language like that. The Disaster Loan Center will then process the incoming loans on a first come, first served basis. I know we've had some questions about whether people should be concerned about running out of money, and what we're being told at this stage is that right now that's not a concern. So take your time, make sure that you're submitting good, complete, and accurate information.
All right, Twila.
Just a second.
Yep.
Just a second here. Let me finish up, Brian. They are trying to complete the approvals in 3 weeks, but I will say that we've never done a process like this before, so we don't know for sure if that 3 weeks is going to, if the 3 weeks is going to hold, but that's usually their average time to get the approval process done. And one other thing, we've heard from a few people that are having trouble uploading their documents. If that becomes an issue, you can either, one, you can keep trying to upload, and the suggestion is maybe to try uploading at what I would call like off hours, like maybe not during the daytime, after 6, after 7. The second option is that you can email those documents to that disaster customer service at sba.gov mailbox. If you do that, you just want to make sure that you include your application number. So, Brian, at this point, I will turn it to you.
Sounds good. We have some questions on the chat feature, and I just pulled back to the slide here that has that email address that you were referencing, the disaster customer service at sba.gov. That would be a place if you're having issues with your uploads. We've been told that you could try, the first step, like Twila said, is to try to keep uploading your documents, but you can email that as well. And then again, that's the 1-800 number, the 800-659-2955. Of course, we have our contact information that we've provided as well, and we're the local SBA district office here, so we'll do everything we can to help you as well. Twila, some of the questions that are coming in, one question was, what are the ramifications if you receive a loan and then subsequently go out of business?
So, well, at this point, it would be the same ramifications for the most part for any loan that you have. Alicia, do you have a few more details on what that looks like?
I'm sorry, while I was typing an answer, repeat that. This was the question about what are the ramifications if the business
if they go out of business, if they get the loan and then they go out of business.
Yeah, it's my understanding that at this point in time, the EIDL, the economic injury disaster loan, is not forgivable. So even if your business doesn't survive, I would expect that the loan would still be in place.
Right, and obviously, like Twila mentioned, there's going to be 11 or 12 months of deferred monthly payments as well, and that would be something too that, you know, our best advice right now, like Twila was saying, is to get the application in as soon as you can, and you know, because it's going to be about 3 weeks before you get these funds. So, you know, we know that things are changing on a daily basis, so just get your application in immediately, and you can always opt out of this loan at any point, and there's no fee to applying as well. All right, Twila, another question. It kind of goes on a similar tangent. Do we get to work with the loan officer while they make size and term decisions on the loan, or do they simply contact us with their decision?
Alicia, if I do this wrong, please feel free to interrupt. My understanding is that you won't interact with the loan officer unless they need extra documentation to make the decision. I believe that they will not, when they decide on the amount and the term of the loan, that's when they will get in touch with you.
That's my understanding as well. If you do have to call in to the Disaster Assistance Center with questions, just ask for your case manager. I don't know how much back and forth they're providing right now, but if you do have to call in with a question, but otherwise, yes, Twila, I agree.
It looks like we're getting questions kind of about the partnerships. So what if you are a partnership? Do all owners need to apply and provide their personal financials?
No, you would apply you would just apply for the business. So if it's a partnership, and I'm just going to make this easy on myself. So if you're a partnership and you've got two partners, each with we'll say a 20% and an 80% ownership in the partnership, both of you would provide your personal information, but it would be just under the one business name.
Kind of back to the size of the loan topic. If we apply and we are approved, can we request you know, what we need in terms of money versus just coming, or can we apply when we need for the money to come to us? We just want to be able to have backup if needed, was the question. So I can take a quick stab. So my understanding is kind of the combination of what we've been discussing is to make sure to work with your loan officer, because you can always reduce the size of the loan. Also, my understanding is that you'll receive multiple disbursements. So within very short order, there would be a $25,000 disbursement made within days. And then there's a process where you receive subsequent disbursements. So if that helps answer that question. I think there's some questions about a FEMA registration number. So folks were asking about that, and perhaps maybe that was because, again, we want to emphasize to apply, and when you go online, make sure you select the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or the EIDL, the EIDL we're calling it, because there's multiple different types of SBA disasters. You have to make sure you click on the right program there. Another question was, where is the slide deck available to access after the webinar?
Everybody that's on the call should have gotten a copy of the slide deck. I will say, when I sent the slide deck out, I had a couple of email addresses that kicked back. That for some reason it wouldn't allow my email to go through your firewall. So if you did not get the slide deck, send me directly an email and I'll get that out to you. And my email address is Twila, Twila, .Kennedy, Kennedy, @sba.gov.
Thanks, Twila. We have a question about what are some examples of why a company would be denied? And we have a slide on that, right?
I'm not sure if we have a slide specifically talking about denial.
Oh, delays. Okay. Oops.
Yeah. So, so here's what I'm going to tell you. Kind of what I'm seeing and what I'm sort of hearing is that it's going to be difficult for business owners that haven't been in business for more than a year, because they're not going to be able to provide a full year of revenue and expense information. So there's the potential for that. I would say that if you're not able to provide, so let's say, I know that there's a question I saw it kind of pop up, so I'm going to bring up the hobby businesses. You need to be filing business taxes. So if you're not filing income taxes for your business as a business, if you're doing it on the side and it's included as part of your personal taxes, I think those businesses may have the potential and may be more difficult for them to be approved.
Okay. Now I'm going to put this question to either you, Twila, or Alicia. I have two restaurants. This is the question. I have two restaurants that each have its own LLC. They are both the same concept. Do I file separately for each or add one as an affiliated business?
Go ahead, Alicia.
Sure, yeah. So the general guideline that I'm giving on applying separately or altogether is that if you have common ownership and the individual entities are similar in the same industry, so the restaurant is the perfect example. If you have common ownership and the entities are similar, you can file together. If you have common ownership of entities that are in completely unrelated industries, the example, a restaurant and a cleaning company, in that instance, it would be better to apply separately.
Thanks, Alicia. So a question was, how long do you anticipate these loans will be available? Is there an aggregate dollar amount limit?
Let's see, as far as how long they will be available, which I thought I wrote down and I didn't, I think I wrote it down and I didn't actually say it. They'll be accepting applications through just about the end of 2020. I believe the date is 12/21 or something of that nature. As far as the aggregate, $2 million is the aggregate amount. So if you have multiple loans, if you get multiple loans because you have multiple business entities, my understanding is $2 million is the highest amount that they'll give you for all of your loans.
Thanks, Twila. So this is kind of related. The next question, if you already have an SBA 7A loan, will this impact eligibility?
And the answer is no. You can have multiple SBA loans. You could have multiple SBA disaster loans. You could have a 7A loan. You could have a loan in our 504 program. You are eligible for multiple SBA loans.
Okay. So these are term loans, not revolving lines of credit, right?
That is correct.
Another question was, I have subs, corp, with 3 locations. The losses are corporate-wide. Do I list each property under damaged property buttons or just use our corporate address?
So you're talking about you've got one kind of umbrella and then you've got 3 companies underneath. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about with 3 different locations. If they are all, if those businesses are all basically doing the same thing, so like they're all restaurants or they're all kind of connected in that way, you would probably do them as one. Let's say though that you have a travel company and a clothing store, then those aren't necessarily connected and you would do separate.
And that would be a point of clarification. You could probably follow up with our team here if that doesn't seem straightforward. I think Twila's answer is just on point. So you probably would do it at the application here would be at the parent level. And that's why we've been stressing and providing the link previously to the size standard definition. So you would check into that. Let's see here. This question writes, I am a single member LLC. I looked at the online application and want to make sure I am entering the business information and my personal information in the correct areas. Any guidance?
Oh, I will say I haven't had a good look at the actual forms. Alicia, I don't know, have you seen any of the forms on the calls that you've been on?
Unfortunately, I haven't, no.
Okay. So that's a good question. You know, I want to make sure that you get good information. So that is a question that I believe I would contact the servicing center for. So the either the disaster customer service at SBA.gov or the 800 number.
Great, thank you. I'd also like to know on the application, it says the applicant's legal name. Is that my name or my business name?
I tell you what, send me that question offline. Let me see if I can find a copy of the form to look at, and I can provide you with a better answer if you want. Otherwise, if you want to send that one to disaster customer service email, you can. But if you want to shoot it to me, I'll see what I can find out.
Okay, next.
And this is Twila.
All right, and we're going to keep taking some questions here, so feel free to submit your questions. We're going to keep going for another few minutes. If we aren't able to get your question or you feel that you just want greater clarity, again, you have our contact information to follow up with our team here. And then we also have this 800-659-2955. They're open 7 days a week. And we've heard at least yesterday that the call volume or the call wait time was actually only a few minutes. I don't have an update on right now what the wait time is, but we were hearing Friday it was a significant wait time, and that's why we wanted to make sure our team here was available for you. But we did hear that the 800 number wait time was pretty quick. On to the next question. The question says, if I own 11 gyms and they're all subsidiaries and affected by COVID, should I file the application for the parent company?
I would say yes. File for the parent company.
I agree on that one.
I have a holding company. Next question. I have a holding company that owns 100% of a business here in Minnesota and one in Iowa. Do I apply in each state?
At this point, I don't think it makes any difference. I mean, I think that you can, if the two businesses are connected and they're basically the same, doing the same thing, because both Iowa and Minnesota have been declared disaster areas, I would believe that you could file one application. But Alicia, now that I'm saying that, maybe do you know anything different?
I do not know anything different. I would think that if you are And I was typing an answer, so I caught kind of in the middle. But if you own two businesses, even if they're in two states, I mean, your incorporation address is in one, or your registrant address is in one state. So that's kind of the piece where the funds will be going, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
since the entire country will be soon declared, I agree. I don't think it's an issue.
I think I just echo on Alicia's point too, that now all states are approved for this, all counties. Just get your application in as soon as possible with your address. The next question is about immigrant-owned small businesses. Are there any programs provided in languages, for example, other than English?
If you're talking about trainings, we're trying to get some Spanish language training up and going. Other than that, I'm not aware of any as far as trainings like this. And I don't know about the documents themselves. I'm assuming we have documents in Spanish, but I'm not sure about other languages as far as the documents.
What about, do we have any other advice for immigrant-owned small businesses?
As far as getting assistance, or, I mean, I guess,
Yes.
I guess, you know, my advice is would be pretty much the same for anybody. I mean, if you know, as the one thing that I will say is that one of the questions that came up on a call I was on, somebody asked about visas. So if you're a business owner and you're here on a visa that's going to expire in, like, let's say 2 years, the SBA is probably not going to give you a loan for that business, since we don't know if in 2 years when your visa expires if you'll still be in the country. So that would be a consideration. But as far as getting assistance, we are working with lots of resource partners. The SBDCs, our SCORE chapters, our women's business centers all have experience working with immigrant business owners. So please feel free to reach out to them.
Okay. So the next two questions are kind of related in some ways. First, is this program related to the package being passed, or is this program in place?
I'm sorry, Brian, could you say that again?
So someone was asking, is this program related to the package being passed, or is this program in place? Now, this program that we're talking about today is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan at SBA. This program is in place. And slide 13 here, you can go on there, and we encourage everyone to go on and apply right away. So another related.
And Brian,
go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, Brian, there might be a little bit of confusion. I know there's another bill. I believe it's working its way through Congress. Yes. We don't know what's going to happen with that, so we can't make any determination. We can only speak fairly confidently to this EIDL loan. So,
and that's related to this second question was, are you aware of something better coming down the pike that we may want to watch for? I would just quickly say, yes, we are aware, but we can only speak to what Congress has passed and the president has signed. And currently, right now, that's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And so we're encouraging everyone to apply for this, because you can always say no, that you don't want it. But you want to get your place in line here, because this is first come, first serve. And there's no fee to apply. Twila, do you want to add on that?
No, and what I guess, well, actually I would. So the one thing that I will say is that we know that when something gets passed through Congress, there's a time period where the terms and how the program is going to work, it takes some time to get put in place. So, you know, that's why Brian's saying that we know firmly what this package, what this loan program does. If Congress comes with another one, we don't know what the terms of that one look like. So, you know, It could be better, it could be worse. We have no idea of knowing that.
Can I see that we're coming up on the top of the hour soon, and can I just jump in on the question that everybody has about the applicant legal name?
Sure.
Okay, so for everybody that's asking about what name to put in the field, I'm looking at the application right now, and I see that there is a field for picking your organization type, and then picking or typing in your applicant legal name, and right underneath that is a trade name. So in the example that we have here, it's an LLC, and so the applicant legal name, if the business name is your individual name, go ahead. If you have a trade name or DBA, you would put that in the next field. However, if your business legal name, how you registered your business, is not your personal name, if it's ABC Company, then put ABC Company in that applicant legal name field. So the applicant piece appears to be the business information, and at the bottom of that application screen is your personal information and contact information. So keep in mind, so for some LLCs and definitely for sole proprietorships, it's more than likely going to be your individual name in that applicant legal name field.
Thank you, Alicia. All right, so we're going to just take questions for another couple minutes. I have listed here the customer service center at the bottom, number 3 here, that is available for the remainder of today. And so if you do have questions, feel free to call this 1-800-659-2955 number. We're also going to be continuing these trainings twice a day for the remainder of the week. Let's just take a couple more questions here. One additional question for us is, as an owner of a commercial property, is SBA looking to the property as collateral? If so, would SBA be secondary to the mortgage company or primary? In either case, I believe I would need the mortgage company's permission. Have you dealt with this before?
So if the SBA takes some real estate as collateral for this loan, they would go in whatever position is coming up next. So if you have a mortgage and there's not a second mortgage, then SBA would be in a second position. If you have a second mortgage, then SBA would take a third mortgage. And I guess, you'd have to check with your mortgage company on the permission question. I mean, we don't, in this particular case, we're not going to bump the mortgage company from first to second. But if they're going to require prior approval before SBA goes in and takes a mortgage position behind them, you may have to contact your mortgage company on that.
Okay.
And those types of questions will come out in the wash. I mean, they'll come out with your application and in the documents that you get from SBA. If there's anything that you need to do like that, that will come from the Office of Disaster Assistance. You don't have to do anything proactively on your own, I don't think. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Twila, but I don't think you have to go out and worry about that just yet.
No, I would wait on a lot of these things, whether or not you're going to need some extra documentation or any other forms. I would say wait to hear from the disaster loan center, the loan officer there, on what they need you to do.
Great. Well, with that, I think we're going to conclude today's call. We've provided some of the 1-800, again, 1-800-659-2955. We also have the contact here on slide 16 for the Minnesota District Office. We have our team here responding to emails just sent into the Minneapolis.mn@sba.gov mailbox. I'd like to turn it back over to Twila for any closing remarks.
So first of all, I really want to thank all of you for taking time to get on. And for those of you that are small business owners, just know that we're out here doing everything we can to help you, and we will continue to do that for as long as it takes, basically. And for those of you asking about a recording, we have not been recording these calls. Unfortunately, we don't have a mechanism to put that out on the internet We are working with some of our partners. We are going to see if we can work with a few of them to do some recordings that they would then put on their website. So if you have any questions that come up, just get a hold of us. And as we have more information come out, it's going to go out on that update, the www.sba.gov update. So please sign up for our newsletter if you don't already get it. And with that, I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you all.
Thanks, Twila. Great job. Thank you. Thanks, Alicia.